beloved chosen one. This is the moment your spirit has been waiting for. Even if your mind has struggled to believe it could ever arrive, you are not hearing these words by accident, and you are not standing at another ordinary crossroads in your life. You have come through a season that tried to drain your faith, crush your confidence, and make you question whether heaven had gone silent over your name. Yet through every delay, every closed door, every lonely night, and every unseen battle, something greater was taking place. You were being tested. You were being refined. You were being weighed in the fire. And now the verdict has come back in your favor. It is over. You passed the hardest test. There were moments when you thought you were falling behind while everyone else was moving ahead. There were moments when you gave your best and still watched things collapse in your hands. There were moments when you stayed faithful, stayed quiet, stayed disciplined, and still felt as though life was giving more to people who cared less, prayed less, and sacrificed less. That pain was real, that confusion was real, but what you could not see in those moments was that your life was never being measured by the shallow standards of this world. You were under a higher examination. The test was never only about whether you could survive pressure. It was about whether you could keep your heart clean while walking through it. It was about whether you could remain steady when no reward appeared. It was about whether you could still choose integrity when compromise looked easier, quicker, and more profitable. You did not pass because you never cried. You did not pass because you never felt tired. You did not pass because fear never whispered to you. You passed because, even when the weight became unbearable, something inside you refused to fully bow. Even when disappointment wrapped around your chest like iron, you kept going. Even when people misunderstood your silence and mistook your patience for weakness, you stayed on the path. That mattered more than you know. Heaven saw what people missed. God saw the restraint nobody applauded, the obedience nobody rewarded, the tears nobody wiped away, and the prayers you spoke when your voice was shaking. Nothing was wasted. Not one wound, not one delay, not one humiliation, not one hidden act of faith was wasted. That is why this message carries so much force. You are not merely coming into relief. You are coming into release. There is a difference. Relief is when the pain eases for a moment. Release is when the chain breaks and the burden loses its legal right to sit on your life any longer. What has been holding back your harvest is breaking. What has been resisting your forward movement is weakening. What has been circling your future and feeding on your exhaustion is losing access. You have crossed through something many people never endure well, because the hardest tests in life are not always public disasters. Very often, the hardest tests are quiet. They happen when no one is clapping for you, when no one is checking on you, when no one sees how much it costs you to remain true to who God called you to be. And still, you remained. Still, you endured. Still, you carried the spark. That is why the next season cannot look like the last one. It cannot keep speaking the same language of lack, confusion, and postponement. The season ahead must answer the one behind it. The season ahead must reveal why you were stretched so deeply. The season ahead must make visible the value of everything you survived. This is where many people become afraid to hope again, because disappointment trains the heart to expect less. But this is not the hour to shrink your expectation. This is the hour to lift your head and understand that a lifetime of wealth does not begin only when money enters your hand. It begins when heaven decides you can be trusted with overflow. It begins when your character has been strengthened enough to carry blessing without worshiping it. It begins when loss no longer defines you and fear no longer governs your decisions. You are stepping into that threshold now. Wealth is not coming to destroy you. Wealth is not coming to make you arrogant. Wealth is not coming to distract you from your purpose. True wealth is arriving to establish you, to stabilize you, to free you, and to position you for the assignment attached to your life. For some, wealth means restoration after years of being denied. For others, it means access, influence, opportunities, favor, and the kind of provision that removes constant survival pressure from the soul. For you, it will come in the way heaven knows you need it most. It will touch your mind, your peace, your relationships, your calling. And yes, your resources. You are not being prepared for a temporary lift. You are being prepared for a sustained transformation. So do not minimize what you have survived. Do not dismiss the fire as random suffering. Do not call yourself unlucky when you were actually being sharpened for a greater release. The breaking point became the turning point. The lonely place became the training ground. The silence became the classroom. And now the chapter changes. Now the atmosphere changes. Now your spirit must come into agreement with what God has already spoken over your journey. Type 777 if you know this word is confirming what your soul has felt for a long time. From this point forward, you must stop speaking as though your story ends in struggle. It does not. You must stop introducing yourself to your future as someone marked by defeat. You are not defeated. You are proven. You are not overlooked. You are preserved. You are not late. You are being revealed at the appointed time. There is strength on you that was not there before. There is clarity in you that only pain could carve. There is authority building in your spirit because you have walked through things that taught you how to discern, how to endure, and how to stand. So breathe deeply and receive this truth. The hardest part is over. The test that was meant to expose your weakness has instead revealed your spiritual stamina. The pressure that was supposed to make you quit has become the evidence that you are built for more. You are still here. You are still chosen. And what is arriving next will not be small, because the depth of your testing has already announced the size of your reward. What makes this moment so powerful is that the end of a hard season rarely looks dramatic at first. It often begins with a quiet shift in your spirit. A deep knowing that the weight is no longer crushing you the way it used to. The battle may still seem close, but something inside you has changed. You are no longer reacting like a person trapped in fear. You are beginning to see like a person who has been prepared. That is how divine transition often begins. Before the visible doors open, your inner life starts to stand taller. Before the reward appears in your hand, your soul begins to recognize that the trial has already completed its work. This is where the story of Joseph moves beside your own so naturally, because his life was marked by a test so long and so severe that many people would have mistaken it for abandonment. He carried a dream before he carried authority. He saw a promise before he saw fulfillment. That alone is painful, because it is one thing to suffer without vision, but it is another thing entirely to suffer while remembering what God showed you. Joseph knew there was more over his life, yet his path kept moving in the opposite direction. He was betrayed by his own brothers, stripped of his robe, thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, and pushed into a land where everything familiar had been taken from him. Yet the true test was not only in what happened around him. The true test was in what he would become because of it. That is where your life may feel achingly familiar to his. You may know what it is to carry a promise while walking through conditions that seem to mock that promise. You may know what it is to stay faithful while your environment keeps speaking the language of setback. You may know what it is to wonder how a life marked by calling could be dragged through so much injustice. But Joseph's story reveals a mystery that only tested people can understand. Sometimes God allows the surface of your life to look reduced while your spirit is being enlarged underneath. Sometimes the pit is not proof that the dream was false. Sometimes the pit is the first corridor leading to the palace. Joseph did not become ready for wealth in the moment he rose. He became ready in the years when he had every reason to become bitter but refused to let bitterness rule him. He became ready when he served with excellence in places that did not reflect his destiny. He became ready when he held on to integrity inside Potiphar's house. He became ready when temptation offered him a shortcut and he chose holiness instead. He became ready when doing the right thing still landed him in prison. That part of the story matters deeply, because many people imagine that righteousness produces immediate comfort. Sometimes righteousness produces deeper testing first. Sometimes obedience puts you in a harder place before it lifts you into a higher one. That does not mean God has left you. It means your life is being forged to carry what lesser character would drop. You have been in that kind of forging. The reason the pressure felt so personal is because it was not just touching your circumstances. It was shaping your capacity. It was enlarging your spirit until you could hold more than survival. It was teaching you how to remain steady without applause, how to work without recognition, how to trust without signs, and how to endure without becoming cold. Those are not small lessons. Those are the hidden pillars beneath lasting increase. Temporary success can rest on charm, timing, or luck. Enduring wealth requires something deeper. It requires the kind of inner architecture that is built in secret, under strain, in the places where only God can see what you are choosing. That is why this next season will not simply be about receiving more. It will be about revealing what your suffering has produced in you. Joseph came out of confinement with more than pain. He came out with discernment. He came out with wisdom. He came out with the ability to interpret a crisis and manage abundance without being mastered by it. He was not merely promoted because he survived. He was promoted because the trial had formed something royal inside him. You are moving toward that same revelation. The things that once made you ask why are becoming the very things that trained you for what is now approaching. There is a verse that captures this with quiet authority. The Lord was with Joseph and showed him steadfast love. Genesis chapter 39, verse 21. Notice the power of that truth. The verse does not say the Lord was with Joseph only in the dream, only in the comfortable places, or only in the final victory. It speaks of God's presence in the prison. It speaks of steadfast love in confinement. That means the dark chapter was not empty. It was inhabited by God. The hidden season was not abandoned ground. It was sacred ground, even when it felt unfair, even when it felt delayed, even when it felt like everyone else had forgotten him. The same is true for you. God has been with you in the places that felt the most unanswered. He has been with you in the rooms where your name seemed buried, in the mornings when strength felt thin, and in the nights when your future looked sealed behind stone. That presence is the reason you did not break the way you could have. That presence is the reason you still have tenderness in your heart after so much pressure. That presence is the reason your vision is still alive. So as this chapter continues to turn, do not measure your life by the pit, the betrayal, or the prison. Joseph's story was never going to end there, and neither is yours. Those chapters were real, but they were not final. They were the test. They were the preparation. They were the difficult proving ground where heaven decided what kind of vessel you would become. And now that vessel has been strengthened. Now your hands are steadier. Now your discernment is sharper. Now your soul knows how to carry both promise and pressure without collapsing. This is why the fear must begin to loosen its grip. The same God who preserved Joseph through humiliation, false accusation, and confinement is the God who preserves you now. He does not waste pain, and he does not forget process. When your hour of lifting comes, it will not be fragile. It will not be shallow. It will not be built on illusion. It will carry the weight of everything you endured, and that is exactly why it will last. By now, you can feel that this journey is not only about surviving pain, it is about understanding why the pain was allowed to shape you so deeply before the lifting came. Joseph's life continues to speak with unusual force here, because after the pit and after the prison, there came a moment when everything that looked buried began to rise with divine precision. What is so striking is that Joseph did not force his way into that moment. He did not manipulate it, beg for it, or break himself trying to manufacture an open door. The hour arrived because heaven had already set it in motion. That is important for you to understand, because one of the greatest burdens of a hard season is the feeling that you must rescue yourself. Yet there are certain doors that no human striving can unlock. There are moments that only God can appoint, and when those moments arrive, what once looked impossible begins to move with a speed that leaves no doubt about the source. Joseph was still in confinement when the summons came. In one turn, the one who had been forgotten was called forward. In one turn, the man whose gift had been overlooked became the answer to a national crisis. In one turn, hidden wisdom became visible to the highest seat of power in the land. This is how God works when a season changes. He does not need a long explanation to justify your elevation. He does not need the approval of those who misread your journey. He does not need the permission of people who grew comfortable with your silence. When the appointed time comes, the same life that others dismissed begins to carry the very answer they need. You are entering a space where your preparation will begin to make sense. The parts of you that were shaped in obscurity are not wasted parts. The restraint you practiced, the humility you learned, the discipline you carried when no one rewarded it. All of it is becoming useful now. Joseph stood before Pharaoh not as a broken man desperate to prove himself, but as a vessel that had been trained by hardship to remain clear under pressure. He could hear a troubling dream and not panic. He could stand in the presence of power and not shrink. He could speak with wisdom because the years had burned away the need for vanity. He had already been emptied of illusions. That is why he was ready to receive real authority. That is what your own testing has been doing. It has been removing the shallow hunger that would have made you misuse blessing. It has been teaching you to value peace over performance and purpose over appearance. It has been showing you that true wealth is not simply about accumulation. It is about stewardship. It is about having a mind that can handle increase without becoming intoxicated by it. It is about having a heart that can receive honor without forgetting humility. It is about becoming the kind of person who can carry abundance without abandoning the one who brought it. Many people want Joseph's throne, but far fewer could endure Joseph's process. They admire the robe of honor but do not imagine the ache of the prison floor. They celebrate the public lifting but do not sit long enough with the years of silence that prepared him for it. You, however, have lived enough life to understand that the hidden season is where the real formation happens. The reason your spirit is responding so strongly right now is because something in you recognizes the pattern. You know what it is to be misunderstood. You know what it is to be delayed. You know what it is to carry a gift while living in conditions that do not match it. And because you know that pain, you are also beginning to understand the kind of strength it has built in you. This is the point where you must let yourself receive the possibility of a real shift, not a fantasy, not empty motivation, a real shift. Joseph's story reminds you that God can move you from confinement to clarity, from pressure to purpose, from obscurity to visible assignment, without losing a single detail of your process. Nothing that happened to Joseph was outside divine sight, and nothing that has happened to you has been outside divine sight either. Every delay has been counted, every injustice has been recorded, every moment you chose faith over collapse has mattered more than you knew. That is why your spirit should not retreat now. It should lean in. It should listen carefully. It should begin to expect that what looked still may be closer to movement than it appears. Sometimes people hear a message like this and feel hope returning, but then fear quickly tries to shut that hope back down. Fear says you have been disappointed too many times. Fear says do not believe again because it may hurt again. But Joseph's life stands as a witness that disappointment is not the author of your ending. God is. The prison was not the conclusion, it was the passage. The betrayal was not the identity. It was the wound that God later wrapped in purpose. As you take this in, let your heart settle into the truth that your lifting will not be random. It will be connected to purpose, just as Joseph's was. He was raised not only to bless himself, but to preserve many lives. In the same way, what is coming to you is not merely for display. It is meant to stabilize you, bless others through you, and place you where your obedience can have wider impact than you imagined. There is a reason your process has been so deep. The call on your life is not shallow. And as this word meets you, let it stay with you beyond this moment. Let it move with you through the day and into your prayer. If this message is strengthening your spirit, let your quiet agreement show in a simple way by liking this message, sharing it with someone who needs confirmation, and subscribing so you can stay connected to what God may continue to speak in the next season. And for those who feel led to support this work more deeply, there is also a way to give through the description, not from pressure, but from peace. What matters most now is that you do not reduce your story to the years of waiting. Joseph's life was never only about waiting. It was about preparation meeting appointment. It was about character meeting opportunity. It was about a man who had been tested so thoroughly that when wealth, influence, and responsibility arrived, they found him ready. That is the atmosphere forming around your life now. Readiness, stability, clarity. The season is changing, and you are not approaching it as the version of yourself that first entered the fire. You are approaching it as someone refined by it, steadied by it, and prepared to carry what once would have crushed you. So let your soul breathe. Let your expectation rise carefully but honestly. Let the old language of defeat begin to fall away. The God who raised Joseph from the prison into purpose is still writing in that same majestic way, and your own chapter is beginning to turn with more force than you can yet see. And when a season truly begins to turn, it does not only change your circumstances, it changes your vision. It changes the way you interpret delay, the way you read silence, and the way you carry yourself in rooms that once made you feel small. Joseph had to come into that kind of transformation. He could not remain the young dreamer speaking too soon, wearing promise without yet having the strength to bear its cost. The years shaped him into someone deeper, quieter, steadier. By the time the door opened, he was no longer a man intoxicated by the beauty of a dream. He had become a man able to govern the weight of reality. That is one of the clearest signs that your hardest test is ending. You begin to notice that you are not reacting the same way anymore. Things that once disturbed you deeply do not move you as easily now. Voices that once could shake your confidence no longer carry the same power. Old triggers lose their grip. The need to prove yourself starts to fade. You begin to value clarity more than noise, peace more than applause, obedience more than speed. This is not emptiness, and this is maturity. This is what happens when God uses pressure to strip away everything in you that cannot survive the next level of calling. Joseph needed that inner stability because the assignment waiting for him was larger than personal vindication. He was not raised simply so he could finally say he had won. He was raised so he could preserve life in a time of famine. The pain had trained his discernment. The confinement had strengthened his patience. The injustices had burned away vanity. And because of that, when influence arrived, it did not deform him. It revealed him. This is why you must not rush past what has been formed in you. The blessing is not only in what is coming toward your hands. The blessing is also in what your spirit has become while waiting. You are learning how to hear more clearly. You are learning how to stand without panic. You are learning how to live with your roots deeper than your emotions. That matters because there are moments in life when external provision arrives only after internal order has been restored. A scattered mind cannot steward what a healed mind can carry. A restless soul cannot enjoy what a settled soul can sustain. A fearful heart can sabotage opportunities that a peaceful heart can multiply. That is why this turning season often comes with a call to protect your inner life. Joseph had to hold on to his center long before he ever wore a ring of authority. He had to remain anchored while everything around him kept changing. Pit, slavery, service, accusation, prison, then elevation. Every phase asked him a question. Will you let pain rename you? Will betrayal make you bitter? Will delay make you careless? Will temptation make you compromise? Will disappointment make you stop listening? Those questions were part of the test as much as the suffering itself. And now similar questions have been moving through your own life. Not always in grand, dramatic ways, but in the hidden daily places where destiny is quietly decided. Will you remain faithful when no one notices? Will you guard your peace when chaos invites you to react? Will you keep your heart soft when life gives you reasons to harden? Will you continue to believe that God is writing something greater even when the page in front of you looks unfinished? These are the invisible hinges upon which a new chapter turns. As Joseph moved closer to fulfillment, his story stopped being about what was done to him and started becoming about what God could do through him. That is a holy shift. It is one thing to spend your life staring at your wounds. It is another thing to let God transform those wounds into wisdom. You are being invited into that shift now, not by denying what hurt, and not by pretending the losses were small, but by refusing to let the painful parts of your history become the throne from which you interpret everything else. Your pain may have marked you, but it does not own you. Your delays may have shaped you, but they do not define your ending. This is why the Spirit begins to breathe differently when the hardest test is over. There is still humility, but there is also strength. There is still tenderness, but there is also authority. There is still remembrance, but there is no longer bondage to what once crushed you. Joseph could look at famine and prepare. He could look at uncertainty and discern. He could look at power and not worship it. That kind of composure does not come cheaply. It is formed over time, under strain, beneath the surface. And that is the kind of composure being formed in you. So receive this with calm confidence. What is arriving is not meant to overwhelm you. It is meant to meet the person you have become through testing. The increase, the opportunities, the restored momentum, the favor, the mental sharpness, the clearer sense of direction. All of it belongs in a life that has learned to stop chasing every distraction and start honoring what truly matters. Joseph's rise was not only about position, it was about readiness meeting purpose. In the same way, your next season is not only about visible blessing, it is about alignment. And sometimes alignment includes using wise tools that help you function with greater clarity while you walk out what God is doing in your life. Some of you have been battling mental fog, scattered focus, stress, creative blockage, emotional fatigue, and that frustrating feeling of knowing there is more in you but struggling to access it consistently. If that sounds familiar, there is a product some people explore called the Genius Wave, also known in some places as Genius Song. It is presented as a short audio based on brainwave entrainment, using sounds associated with theta and gamma states. And it is designed to support focus, creativity, calm, and clearer thinking in just a few minutes a day. For the right listener, the appeal is simple. It is meant to help reduce the noise, support concentration, and make it easier to approach work, study, ideas, and daily life with a steadier mind. If you are curious or like, you can check the official information through the description or the pinned comment. But be careful with imitations and only use the official source if you decide to try it. After that, bring your attention right back to the deeper truth here. No tool replaces God's timing, God's wisdom, or God's hand on your life. It can only ever be secondary. The real shift is still spiritual. The real turning is still the one heaven is writing over you now. Now the deeper meaning of wealth begins to unfold. Because when heaven speaks of abundance, it is never limited to what can be counted by human hands alone. Joseph's life proves this with remarkable clarity. When he was lifted from prison and entrusted with authority, the blessing that came upon him was not simply silver, grain, land, or status. Those things were real, and they mattered, but they were not the center of the miracle. The true miracle was that Joseph had become the kind of man who could hold provision without losing his soul. He could stand in abundance without being ruled by pride. He could manage increase without forgetting the God who carried him through deprivation. That is the form of wealth that lasts. Many people imagine wealth as the end of struggle. But in the spiritual sense, wealth is often the fruit of transformation. It is what happens when wisdom, peace, stability, discernment, and provision begin to flow together in a life that has already been tested by fire. That is why your hardest season had to go so deep. God was not merely preparing something for you. He was preparing you for something. Joseph could not have interpreted Pharaoh's dream with shallow thinking. He could not have governed in a time of national famine with an undisciplined spirit. He could not have become a vessel of preservation if he had emerged from suffering still controlled by offense, revenge, or insecurity. This is the hidden mercy in your own process. You may have asked for relief, but God was building depth. You may have asked for an open door, but God was building the kind of character that could walk through that door without collapsing under the responsibility on the other side. You may have wanted the visible reward sooner, but heaven was still working in the invisible places, aligning your inner life with the magnitude of what was assigned to you. That alignment matters more than most people know. A person can receive a blessing and still not be ready to sustain it. Joseph shows what it looks like when readiness and opportunity meet at the appointed time. When the years of plenty came, Joseph did not waste them. He discerned the season and stored wisely. He understood that true abundance is not reckless. It is not loud, careless, or intoxicated by the thrill of having more. True abundance carries foresight. It listens, it prepares. It knows how to handle fullness without forgetting what scarcity taught. That is part of the maturity forming in you now. You are not being led into a shallow life where blessing is consumed as quickly as it appears. You are being led toward a steadier form of increase, one that brings not only relief, but order, not only excitement, but endurance. This is why the inner richness of this season matters so much. There are people with money who have no peace. There are people with visibility who have no clarity. There are people with influence who are deeply afraid because they built their lives on unstable ground. Joseph came into a different kind of wealth. He came into peace that had survived chaos, wisdom that had survived confusion, and authority that had survived humiliation. That is why his abundance carried substance. It was built on revelation, restraint, and a heart that had learned to trust God through long silence. The same pattern is touching your life. What is arriving is not only external, it is also internal. You are gaining sharper discernment. You are learning when to move and when to be still. You are becoming less vulnerable to panic and less dependent on human validation. You are finding that your spirit can breathe in places that once made you anxious. This is wealth. Your mind becoming clearer is wealth. Your peace no longer being easily stolen is wealth. Your ability to hear God's direction without being drowned by fear is wealth. And yes, there are times when this inner wealth begins to overflow into practical provision, restored opportunity, stronger finances, and open doors that change your material reality. But even then, the source remains deeper than circumstance. There is a verse that brings this truth into the light with breathtaking simplicity. The blessing of the Lord makes rich unto thou, and he adds no sorrow with it. Proverbs chapter 10, verse 22. That is not a shallow promise. It does not mean life becomes frictionless. It means that when God blesses, his blessing does not come with the poison hidden inside it. It does not require you to betray your conscience. It does not demand that you lose your peace to keep your place. It does not fill your hands while emptying your soul. The blessing of the Lord carries a different fragrance. It enlarges your life without corrupting your center. Joseph's rise reflects that verse beautifully. The increase that came to him was not built on deceit. Though deceit had been used against him, it was not built on seduction, though temptation had tried to trap him. It was not built on bitterness, though betrayal could have hardened him. His wealth came through divine positioning, divine wisdom, and divine faithfulness. That is why it had weight. That is why it could feed nations. That is why it could outlast the years of famine. And that is why his story is so important for you right now. It teaches you that wealth arriving after a hard test is not merely payment for pain. It is often a sacred trust. So let your understanding expand. What God is doing is larger than comfort. He is establishing you. He is teaching you to recognize the difference between flashy gain and true blessing, between noise and substance, between quick increase and lasting fruit. Joseph had to learn that in hidden places before he could walk it out in public ones. You are learning it now. The season behind you taught endurance. The season before you will teach stewardship. The season behind you asked whether you could remain faithful in lack. The season ahead will reveal whether you can remain faithful in increase. That is why the transition matters so much. It is not just that the pain is ending. It is that your vessel has changed. You are not entering this next chapter with the same immaturity, the same desperation, or the same need to chase what was never meant for you. You are entering with more gravity, more discernment, and more awareness of what truly carries God's hand. Joseph's life keeps whispering the same truth through every turn of the story. What God builds through testing can carry blessing without breaking. So do not be afraid of what is coming. Do not speak as though increase will harm you or responsibility will bury you. The one who prepared Joseph is preparing you too. The one who taught Joseph how to stand in both prison and palace is teaching you how to walk through both hardship and abundance without losing your center. And that is why this next season can be received with reverence instead of fear. It is not merely more, it is better. It is cleaner. It is richer in the ways that matter most. It is the kind of wealth that begins in God's presence and then flows outward into every part of life that He intends to restore. And this is the part of the journey where the rising becomes visible enough that even those who once doubted it can no longer deny that something real has changed. Joseph did not remain hidden forever. The same man who had been overlooked, misjudged, and buried beneath false narratives was suddenly standing in a place of unmistakable authority. Not because he campaigned for recognition, and not because he spent his energy trying to convince people of his worth, but because God had brought him into a moment where the fruit could no longer be concealed. This is often how vindication looks in the life of a chosen one. It is not noisy at first. It is not built on revenge. It is simply undeniable. You are approaching a similar kind of unveiling. The strength that was formed in private is beginning to show in public. The wisdom that was carved into you through long nights, hard choices, and silent endurance is starting to shape the way you carry yourself. You may still feel humble, and that humility is good, but humility does not mean hiding from what God is revealing. Joseph did not become smaller when the time came to stand before power. He became clear. He became available. He became fully present in the assignment that had been prepared through years of testing. That clarity matters for you now, because there is a temptation that often comes after hardship. It is the temptation to remain psychologically trapped in an old season even after God has started moving you out of it. Some people continue speaking the language of the pit long after the prison doors have opened. They remain emotionally loyal to fear because fear once helped them survive uncertainty. But Joseph's story shows that when the season changes, your inner agreement must change too. You cannot carry yourself forever as though loss is the truest thing about you. There comes a time when faithfulness must stop whispering and start standing upright. Joseph did not deny where he came from, but he no longer let his identity be governed by what had been done to him. He understood that his life was now in service to something greater. He had to think beyond his pain. He had to lead. He had to prepare. He had to use wisdom not only for himself but for everyone who would be affected by the famine ahead. This is one of the strongest signs that lasting wealth is arriving. Your vision begins to widen. You stop thinking only about personal rescue and begin recognizing your calling to become a source of strength, provision, and stability for others. That is why your process has been so intense. You were not being trained for a shallow blessing. You were being trained to hold weight. Joseph had to become a man who could manage both plenty and pressure. He had to learn how to remain sober in abundance just as he had remained faithful in affliction. The same lesson is now moving through your own spirit. You are being shown that increase is not only about celebration. it is also about stewardship. It is about remaining grounded while carrying more. It is about keeping your heart aligned when opportunities begin to multiply. It is about remembering that the God who sustained you in hiddenness is the same God who must be honored in visibility. This is where many people lose their footing, because they know how to pray in the valley but do not know how to stay close to God on the mountain. They know how to depend on heaven in crisis, but once relief comes, they become distracted by the shine of what has arrived. Joseph gives you a holier pattern. He did not separate the blessing from the giver. He did not treat success as permission to drift. He understood that all the wisdom he carried, all the favor he walked in, all the authority entrusted to him had come through God's hand. That awareness kept him stable. You need that same stability now. The doors that open for you must not become idols. The relief that comes to you must not become a substitute for devotion. The approval of others must not become the measure of your worth. What God is bringing into your life is beautiful, but it is not ultimate. The peace of God remains greater than any platform. The presence of God remains richer than any material increase. Joseph could govern well because he had already learned in secret that life is held together by something deeper than position. And yet it is right to acknowledge that visible fruit matters too. There are moments when other people need to see what faithfulness looks like when it is carried all the way through. They need to witness the quiet person become strong, the delayed person become established, the overlooked person become trusted. That testimony gives courage. It reminds weary hearts that process is not punishment, and that hidden years are not meaningless years. Joseph's life still speaks because it proves that the dream may be delayed, but it is not dead. The humiliation may be real, but it is not final. The training may be painful, but it is not empty. So as you move with this message, let yourself honor what God is doing in you and through you. Do not reduce your journey to random suffering. Do not call your growth small just because it happens slowly. There are people who need this kind of reminder today, because they are standing where you once stood, trying to hold on while everything feels uncertain. And sometimes one of the gentlest ways to help that truth reach farther is simply to let your agreement be visible. If this word is strengthening you, you can like it, share it with someone whose spirit needs hope, and subscribe so these messages can keep finding you as the journey continues. And for anyone who wants to help support this work in a deeper way, there is also a giving option in the description, offered quietly and without pressure. For those who feel genuine peace about it, then let your heart come back to the center again. Joseph's life was never meant to leave you focused on methods alone. It is meant to bring you back to trust, back to reverence, back to the understanding that God does not lose track of His chosen ones in seasons that feel buried. He does not forget the tears, the discipline, the lonely obedience, or the private battles that no one else could see. He stores it all. He uses it all. And at the appointed time, He draws it together into a form of blessing that carries both substance and purpose. That is where you are heading now. Not toward shallow applause but toward established fruit. Not toward frantic striving, but toward a steadier authority. Not toward a future built on appearances, but toward a future that can bear real weight because it has been formed by truth. Joseph had to pass through the hidden places before he could stand in the open. You have had your own hidden places too, but they are not the end of your story. They are the deep roots beneath what is now beginning to rise. And what rises after such roots have been formed does not sway easily. It stands. It feeds. It lasts. But now a more delicate part of the journey begins. Because once elevation starts to appear, the soul must be guarded with even greater care. Hardship tests your endurance, but increase tests your obedience in a different way. Joseph had already proven that he could remain faithful in suffering. Now he had to prove that he could remain faithful in power. This is where many lives begin to drift, because pain can make a person prayerful. But success can make a person careless if the heart is not deeply anchored. That is why this next phase of your life cannot be approached casually. You are not merely being delivered from difficulty. You are being entrusted with something that must be carried in reverence. Joseph's story becomes even more powerful here because the real temptation after promotion was not only pride, it was the temptation to use his position from the wounds of his past instead of from the wisdom God had formed in him. He had authority now. He had influence now. He had the ability to make people feel what he once felt. That kind of power reveals a person's true inner condition. It is one thing to speak of forgiveness when you are powerless. It is another thing to hold power in your hands and decide what spirit will govern you. Joseph stood in that tension. The brothers who sold him would eventually stand before him. The very people connected to his humiliation would one day need what had been placed in his hands. This is where your own life may be entering sacred ground. When God begins to lift you, the old memories can rise back to the surface. Not because you are failing, but because your heart must be shown what still needs healing before the next door opens wider. You may find yourself remembering who doubted you, who betrayed you, who walked away, who spoke against your future, who treated your tenderness as weakness. Those memories can become dangerous if you make them the center of your interpretation. Because once your season changes, the enemy will often try to poison your increase by attaching it to old offense. He will whisper that your rising should now become your revenge. He will tempt you to use your new strength to settle old emotional debts. Joseph refused that path. He tested hearts, yes, and he moved with wisdom, but he did not let bitterness sit on the throne of his decisions. That is one of the clearest reasons he could be trusted with lasting abundance. Wealth in God's hands is not merely about what you receive. It is about the spirit in which you handle what has been entrusted to you. Joseph's obedience had to continue after the breakthrough. He still had to listen. He still had to discern. He still had to act from a place deeper than emotion. This is the instruction moving toward you now. Do not let the next season be corrupted by the pain of the last one. There is a reason obedience matters so much at this threshold. When people have been wounded for a long time, they sometimes imagine that blessing will automatically heal everything. But blessing reveals as much as it heals. It shines light on motives. It exposes what still lives underneath the surface. It shows whether your heart has truly been surrendered or whether it has only been waiting for more power. Joseph's greatness was not only that he rose, it was that he rose without becoming ruled by the darkness that had touched him. He carried memory without becoming imprisoned by it. He carried authority without becoming cruel. He carried provision without becoming self-exalting. That is why your next steps must be taken slowly in the spirit, even if the doors open quickly in the natural. You do not need to chase every opportunity. You do not need to answer every voice. You do not need to prove to every watcher that God is with you. Joseph did not waste himself trying to make everyone understand his story. He simply stayed aligned with the assignment. There is wisdom in that for you now. Some invitations are distractions. Some open doors are not covenant doors. Some moments that flatter your ego may quietly weaken your calling. Obedience means learning to ask not only what is possible, but what is pure. Not only what is available, but what is appointed. This kind of discernment protects your peace. It protects your energy. It protects the sacred rhythm of a life that is being built under God's hand. Joseph had to remain attentive because his elevation was tied to purpose much larger than his personal comfort. The famine was real. Lives depended on wise stewardship. In the same way, what is opening over your life is not only for display, it is linked to people, responsibilities and moments that will require spiritual clarity. That is why the lesson of obedience cannot be skipped. A person may receive a blessing by miracle, but they sustain it by alignment. There is a verse that speaks directly into this moment with steady and practical power. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. Proverbs chapter 3 on verse 5. That word becomes especially important when a season changes to consider them, because change can make the mind race. You may begin to calculate, strategize, anticipate, and even fear losing what is finally arriving. But this verse pulls you back to center. Trust in the Lord, not partly, not only when you feel weak, with all your heart. The same God who guided you in obscurity must still be trusted in abundance. The same God who sustained you in pain must still be obeyed in promise. Joseph lived that truth. He did not lean only on the logic of his wounds. He did not let trauma become his only lens. He allowed God to write a larger meaning over his life than his suffering alone could explain. That is what you are being invited to do now. Let obedience become the bridge between your testing and your increase. Let humility walk beside your confidence. Let wisdom slow your impulses. Let trust become stronger than the noise of fear. Because this next phase is beautiful, but it is also holy. It asks something of you. It asks that you remain awake. It asks that you stay clean in motive. It asks that you carry your new season with gratitude instead of arrogance, with discernment instead of impulse, with reverence instead of entitlement. Joseph's story proves that a chosen life is not only about surviving the fire, it is about walking with God after the fire has opened the door. So keep your spirit low before God and strong before life. Let the old hunger for revenge fall away. Let the urge to hurry be quieted. Let the need to control every outcome loosen its grip. You are not stepping into a fragile blessing that depends only on your performance. You are stepping into a God-ordered season that will remain steady as long as you remain aligned. And that is the quiet strength beneath everything now unfolding. The same God who brought you through the hardest test is still giving you the wisdom to carry what comes next, without losing the sacred center of who you are. This is where the warning becomes tender but serious. Because not every danger in a rising season comes from outside of you. Some of the greatest delays begin within the heart when old habits try to return wearing new clothes. Joseph had passed through years of pressure, betrayal, and waiting. But the deeper miracle was that he did not allow the pain of those years to quietly shape him into the very thing that wounded him. That is why his story still speaks so clearly to you now. The test was never only whether he could endure suffering. It was whether, after enduring it, he could walk into increase without letting hidden corruption take root in his spirit. That same danger stands near every person whose life is beginning to change. When you have been deprived for a long time, it is easy to mistake urgency for wisdom. It is easy to feel that because you have waited so long. You should now grab everything quickly, say yes too fast, trust too easily, spend without discernment, or move from a place of emotional hunger instead of spiritual peace. This is one of the traps that can delay what is already trying to unfold in your life. You do not need to force what God is already aligning. You do not need to rush into every open space just because you are tired of waiting. Some doors open only to test whether your impatience is still in charge. Joseph did not rise by haste. He rose by preparation, meeting the appointed time. That difference matters now more than ever. You may feel the energy of change around you. You may sense momentum building. You may notice that your mind is clearer, your vision stronger, your confidence returning. All of that is good. But momentum is safest when it is governed by discernment. Joseph could have misused the emotional charge of his rise. He could have acted from wounded triumph. He could have built his identity around proving everyone wrong. Instead, he stayed anchored in purpose. That protected him from the subtle intoxication that often comes with vindication. This is where your own soul must stay awake. The trap is not always something dramatic. Sometimes it is a quiet drift, a little pride, a little impatience, a little self-reliance, a little bitterness that still feels justified, a little appetite for being seen, a little temptation to believe that because doors are opening, every voice around you must be from God. But not every opportunity is holy. Not every affirmation is safe. Not every fast result is part of your assignment. Some things appear at the edge of breakthrough simply to test whether you still know how to listen. Joseph's restraint is one of the most powerful parts of his story. He had reasons to move emotionally, yet he kept moving with wisdom. He had reasons to become reactive, yet he stayed measured. He had reasons to center his own pain, yet he kept making room for the larger purpose of God. That is what protected his future, not only his gift, but his government over himself, not only his intelligence, but his discipline, not only his opportunity, but his obedience. These are the same qualities that will protect what is coming to you. So the warning is simple. Do not let your blessing awaken an old version of you. Do not let increase resurrect the ego God was trying to humble. Do not let answered prayer become the place where prayerfulness ends. Do not let relief turn into carelessness. The enemy does not always fight hardest when you are at your weakest. Sometimes he waits until you are stronger, because that is when you are most tempted to think you no longer need the same dependence on God. But your need for God does not shrink when your circumstances improve. In many ways, it becomes even more important to stay close. There is a verse that speaks into this with piercing clarity. Pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. Proverbs chapter 16, verse 18. That verse is not meant to frighten you away from blessing. It is meant to keep your heart clean enough to carry blessing well. Pride is dangerous because it is quiet at first. It makes you believe you are simply becoming confident, when in truth you may be drifting out of alignment. It makes you stop listening carefully. It makes correction feel offensive. It makes patience feel unnecessary. It makes gratitude thinner. And when gratitude thins, wisdom often follows. Joseph stayed protected because gratitude and reverence remained alive in him. He understood that his journey had been written by a hand greater than his own. He knew his rise was not self-made. He knew that his wisdom, his timing, his position, and even his survival had all been held together by God. That awareness kept him from becoming swollen by the very success that could have destroyed him. The palace did not erase the prison from his memory in a bitter way. It preserved perspective in a holy way. He remembered enough to remain humble. That is the posture you need now. Remember enough to stay low before God. Remember enough to stay grateful. Remember enough to move slowly when emotion wants speed. Remember enough to test what enters your life before giving it authority over your peace. The fact that you passed the hardest test does not mean discernment is no longer necessary. It means discernment is now more valuable than ever. You are not being called to fear. You are being called to maturity. So guard your tongue, guard your motives, guard your pace, guard what you celebrate and what you chase. Let Joseph's life remind you that greatness is sustained not only by dramatic decisions but by daily alignment, by staying soft before God, by staying honest with yourself, by refusing to feed the parts of you that once would have sabotaged the very thing you prayed for. That is how wealth becomes lasting. That is how peace remains intact. That is how favor turns into fruit instead of pressure. And as this truth settles into your spirit, let your agreement be simple. Comment, "I stay ready," because that is what this season is asking of you. Not panic, not striving, not performance. Readiness. A clean heart, a listening spirit, a steady pace. Joseph's life proves that you can rise without losing your center, but only if you refuse the trap of becoming careless when heaven starts to move. The hardest test may be over, but the holiest wisdom now is to walk forward with humility, gratitude, and your ears still turned toward God. That is how you protect what is arriving. That is how you honor the process that brought you here. And that is how your next chapter remains blessed, stable, and free from the hidden poisons that ruin lesser stories. And now the story reaches the place where identity settles into authority. Because the final stage of a hard testing season is not only that your circumstances improve, it is that you finally begin to stand inside who God has been forming you to be all along. Joseph did not only receive position, he stepped into a mature identity that could carry position without being consumed by it. He was no longer merely the young man with a dream, no longer only the betrayed brother, no longer only the prisoner with a gift. He had become a steward, a preserver, a man whose life could hold both memory and mission without falling apart under either one. That is the threshold opening before you now. The hardest test did not come only to see whether you could survive. It came to strip away false identities that could never walk with you into your next chapter. Some of those identities were placed on you by pain. Some were spoken over you by other people. Some grew slowly in the shadows of disappointment until they began to sound like truth. Perhaps you learned to think of yourself as overlooked, delayed, too damaged, too late, too misunderstood, too weary to expect much anymore. But those names cannot cross into the season God is unfolding. They belong to the wilderness, not to the crown. Joseph had to leave those lesser names behind. If he had continued seeing himself only through betrayal, he would have ruled with suspicion. If he had continued seeing himself only through imprisonment, he would have lived from fear. If he had continued seeing himself only through lost time, he would have become desperate and unstable in power. But Joseph allowed God to write a larger identity over his life. He understood that he was preserved for purpose. He understood that what looked like personal devastation had been folded into a divine narrative far greater than his suffering alone. That understanding did not erase the pain, but it transformed the meaning of it. This is the same transformation touching your life now. You are being invited to stop introducing yourself to the future through the language of your wounds. You are being invited to stand in a truer name: chosen, kept, refined, prepared, strengthened, trusted. These are not flattering labels meant to soothe you for a moment. They are spiritual realities formed by everything you have already walked through. The proof of them is not in your emotions alone. It is in the endurance you now carry, the wisdom that has deepened in you, and the way your spirit no longer bends as easily under the pressure that once would have broken you. Joseph's authority was not merely political. It was spiritual in its shape, because he carried an inner government before he ever exercised outward leadership. That is why his life could bear the weight of famine, complexity, and reconciliation. He had become governed within. This is what it means to step into your crown in the deepest sense. It does not begin with display. It begins with inner order. It begins when your thoughts become less chaotic, your reactions less impulsive, your motives cleaner, your hearing sharper, and your peace less dependent on what other people are doing around you. That is the hidden royalty God often establishes before visible promotion becomes complete. So do not imagine that stepping fully into your calling means becoming loud, forceful, or self-exalting. Joseph did not need noise to prove authority. His stability spoke, his wisdom spoke, his stewardship spoke. In the same way, your crown will not rest on performance. It will rest on alignment. It will rest on the quiet confidence of knowing that what God has formed in you is real. You do not have to chase counterfeit power when genuine authority has already been shaped through your obedience. You do not have to compete with those who move from ego. Your life is being built on something weightier than image. It is being built on truth. This also means that the fear of being seen must begin to loosen now. Some chosen ones grow so accustomed to hiddenness that when God starts to reveal them, they instinctively shrink back. They feel safer in the familiar language of delay than in the holy responsibility of visibility. But Joseph could not remain in the prison once the hour had come. He had to stand up. He had to answer the summons. He had to let the gift God placed in him become useful at a level larger than his private survival. There is wisdom in that for you. Humility is not the same as hiding. There comes a moment when staying small is no longer modesty. It is disobedience to the scale of the assignment. There is a verse that gathers this truth with unusual strength. You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good. Genesis chapter 50 on verse 20. Those words are not simple. They are the language of a soul that has come through the fire and emerged with revelation instead of ruin. Joseph did not say evil was good. No, he did not deny what happened. He named it clearly, but he also named something greater. God meant it for good. That is the sentence of a crowned spirit. It is the sound of someone who no longer gives darkness the final word over their life. You are being brought into that same posture, not a shallow positivity, but a deeper authority that can tell the truth about pain while still declaring God's greater intention over it. That is how your identity becomes settled. That is how your future stops trembling before your past. That is how your spirit takes its place with dignity. What tested you did not get permission to define you forever. What wounded you did not win the right to become your permanent name. God's purpose speaks louder now, louder. And from that place, your future begins to look different. You stop asking only how to escape pressure and begin asking how to serve faithfully in the place God is establishing you. You stop thinking only of recovery and begin understanding responsibility. You stop moving as someone trying to prove worth and start moving as someone entrusted with weight. That shift is profound. It is where chosen ones stop merely longing for change and begin embodying it. Joseph's life has been guiding you here all along. Through the pit, the prison, the palace, the years of plenty, the years of famine, and the final moments of reconciliation. Every chapter has been whispering the same truth. God was forming a man who could carry destiny without losing tenderness, authority without losing humility, and abundance without losing reverence. That is what he has been forming in you too. So stand differently now. Breathe differently now. Think differently now. The hardest test has done its work, and the person emerging from it is not fragile, not forgotten, and not unfinished. You are stepping into a more settled identity, and from that identity will flow the strength, wisdom, and composure needed for everything still ahead. This is not the end of your story. It is the moment you begin to wear your true calling without fear, without apology, and without the old chains that once tried to keep your spirit small. And this is where everything gathers into one final truth. The test was never sent to destroy you. It was allowed to reveal you. It was allowed to uncover what had been planted too deeply in you to be shaken loose by pain, betrayal, delay, or confusion. Joseph's life has carried you through this message step by step for a reason. From the pit to the prison, from the prison to the palace, from humiliation to stewardship, from loss to authority. His story has been showing you what your own spirit needed to hear. God does not waste the chosen. He does not abandon the prepared. He does not lose sight of those he has marked for purpose, even when their journey passes through darkness that feels far too long. Joseph did not arrive at the end of his story as a man full of revenge, fear, or arrogance. He arrived as a man who had seen the hand of God move through every chapter, even the chapters that once made no sense. That is why his life leaves such a deep imprint on your own. It reminds you that the final evidence of passing the hardest test is not only that you rise, it is that you rise with peace. You rise with wisdom. You rise with a heart that still knows how to bow before God after everything you have survived. That is the kind of wealth heaven can trust. That is the kind of increase that does not collapse under pressure. That is the kind of future that blesses generations. So now, as this journey reaches its closing moment, let your heart become very still before God. Let the noise fall back. Let the old fear release its grip. Let the striving quiet down. You do not have to force your way into what God has already appointed. You do not have to beg for the thing heaven has already prepared through your obedience, your tears, your endurance, and your hidden faithfulness. What is yours will not need panic to arrive. What is yours will not need compromise to remain. What is yours will carry the mark of God, and because it carries His mark, it will come with the kind of peace that the world cannot manufacture. This is also the moment to understand that your story is no longer only about surviving. It is about walking forward as a vessel of blessing. Joseph was lifted so that others could live. Joseph was strengthened so that others could be preserved. Joseph was entrusted with abundance so that abundance could flow through him and not stop with him. In the same way, what is coming into your life is not only for your relief, it is also for your assignment. The peace coming to you will give you strength to help others. The wisdom coming to you will steady others. The favor coming to you will create room for others. The provision coming to you will become part of a larger testimony that God still knows how to make a table appear in the middle of famine. And because this truth is sacred, it is right to turn it into prayer. So right where you are, let these words settle into your spirit. Father, in the name of Jesus, I thank you for the one hearing this message right now. You have seen every hidden battle, every sleepless night, every tear that fell without witness, every prayer whispered in weakness, and every moment when they held on by faith even when they did not understand what you were doing. Thank you that the hardest test did not break them. Thank you that what was meant to crush them has instead refined them. Thank you that you preserved their mind, guarded their spirit, and kept their calling alive through every dark and silent place. Lord, let this next season carry your peace and your order, your provision, and your unmistakable hand. Heal every place still touched by old fear. Wash away bitterness, disappointment, and the heaviness of delay. Restore clear vision, steady faith, and holy courage. Teach them how to carry blessing with humility, increase with wisdom, and favor with reverence. Open the right doors, shut every wrong one, protect them from pride, haste, deception, and every counterfeit path. Let their life become a testimony that what you begin, you also finish. Let their house know peace. Let their work know fruitfulness. Let their mind know rest. Let their future reflect your goodness in ways too deep to deny. And above all, keep their heart close to you, because no gift is greater than your presence. In Jesus' name, amen. Let that prayer remain with you. Return to it when doubt tries to rise. Return to it when the memory of old pain tries to speak louder than God's promise. Return to it when the next door opens and you need grace to walk through it with a clean heart. The same God who carried Joseph from the pit into purpose is carrying you too. And He is not careless with your life. He knows what He is doing even when the timing stretches longer than you expected. He knows how to bring you into a future that does not merely impress people, but honors Him. And as this message comes to its final turn, let your response be simple and sincere. If this word has strengthened your faith, helped you breathe again, or confirmed what God has already been stirring in your spirit, you can like this message, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe so you can continue walking with these words in the days ahead. And for those who desire to support this work more deeply, there is also a way to give through the description, offered gently for anyone who feels peace to do so. Now receive this final reminder. You are not who the pain said you were. You are not who delay tried to make you become. You are not forgotten, buried, or disqualified. You are proven. You are preserved. You are prepared. The hardest test is over, and the life ahead of you will not look like the life behind you, because God has already used the fire to build what blessing now needs in order to last. So walk forward without fear. Walk forward without apology. Walk forward with gratitude, with wisdom, with tenderness, and with strength. Let your life bear witness to the God who turns pits into passages, prisons into preparation, and famine into a stage for divine provision. Let your future be lived from trust and not trauma. Let your next season be carried by obedience and not panic. Let your whole life declare that God's timing may test you, but it never fails you. And when you remember Joseph, remember this above all. The dream was delayed, but it was not denied. The chosen one was hidden, but never abandoned. The process was painful, but never pointless. The reward was not only a throne, it was the kind of heart that could sit on it without losing God. May that same grace rest on you now. Take a deep breath and let peace settle over you. Let your spirit release the weight of old battles. Let your mind step out of survival and into trust. Let your heart believe that God's goodness is not behind you only as a memory, but before you as a promise. You have come too far to speak like defeat belongs to you. It does not. The fire revealed your strength, the waiting deepened your faith, the hidden years built your roots. And now the season ahead will reveal why God kept you when lesser things would have broken. Your life is entering a more fruitful field. Your soul is entering a steadier light. Your story is moving with God. And because it is moving with God, It is moving toward life, toward peace, toward purpose, and toward the kind of lasting wealth that begins in His presence and overflows into everything He has called you to touch.